Hello and welcome to the Shelly Show. I am Shailendra and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. I hope you and your family are safe. For you to view this episode and other sessions that are run on emerging technologies live, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when a live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to ask directly the question to my audience, to the guests. So please press the follow button if you're watching this on LinkedIn. Press the follow button if you're watching on Twitter. If you're watching this on YouTube, press the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be alerted when a live session or a video is uploaded. And for maximum reach of this video, if you're watching this on Facebook, then like and share it to your audience, and also share it with various groups that are AI focused or data science or analytics focused, so more and more people can learn from this episode. Okay, very first question to everyone, to the audience: where are you joining us from? I just want to understand the lay of the land. What all countries are you coming from? What all cities you are coming from? Please put that in the comment section. Also, if you've got any question for our guests, please put that question in the comment section, and I will take those questions in the audience Q&A section. So if you've got a question, put that in the comment section. Okay, today artificial intelligence is a commonplace. Navigation systems in cars, fitness apps, Alexa, Siri, Google, it's called Google Voice, Netflix, weather forecasting, and high-speed stock trading are among current must-have AI applications. Now, even manufacturers are with heavy assets, including the cement companies, the building companies, construction companies, are launching pilot projects to determine if and how AI might benefit their organizations, their operations. Traditionally, these manufacturers have financed improvements as capital expenditures, but now as AI comes into play, where AI offers a less costly alternative by enabling companies to use their existing softwares to analyze the vast amount of data they routinely collect, and at the same time customize their results. In doing so, they gain a better understanding of today's evolving technologies and the value these technologies deliver. Okay, so welcome to the 11th episode of Artificial Intelligence Startup Series. In the series, we discuss about artificial intelligence and how startups are impacting and leading this space. We are joined by our in-house guest, Marc Teerlink, who is SAP's Global Vice President for Intelligent Enterprise Solutions and Artificial Intelligence. Marc is active in the startup community as an angel investor, mentor, board member, and whatnot. I'm not going to introduce him further, and without any further ado, just get him onto the show. Hi, Marc. Good morning.
Good morning or good afternoon for you, Shelley, and good evening for our friends in the west coast of the USA. It's been a very exciting 2 weeks for them, at least, I can tell you, socially, economically, and other things. It's man, I really love today's topic, I must say. I mean, it's a little bit, the problem is people are talking about like, oh, I'm going to have a 4G phone, I'm going to have a 5G phone. And these are really bang, hard transitions. You get a 5G phone, you put your SIM card in it. And of course, if you live in a 5G network, you have the benefits. And hopefully somebody made the apps. But Industry 4.0, right, is just coming up. I mean, it's just in the hype cycle of Gartner. We see now this year more and more death by PowerPoints on Industry 4.0, and it's all about the connected factory and the connected car and the connected supply chain. And like, dude, that is so, sorry to say, 2019. I mean, Industry 5.0 is coming there already, like there is 5G coming. And of course, the first applications are scarce, but the big difference for our viewer is, do you just want to have a connected factory? It's a little bit like at home that your coffee machine says over your phone, I'm out of beans, or that your wash machine says, I am done, empty me, right? That's connected. That's purely connected. It's just some signaling, right? So the biggest strategy when you talk to CIOs and what are you going to do for Industry 4.0 for your factory? Well, we're going to have a mesh network everywhere. Like, wow, that's that's a little bit in 2005 when somebody said, well, maybe we should have a website, like that. And Industry 5.0 is, of course, about augmenting you and me, and that's not going to be like a phone from today or tomorrow. It's a gradual change. It's a gradual evolution. And it's not just the manufacturing plant, right? It's the supply chain. It's all your suppliers when you're manufacturing, but it's also the way that you fit in the supply chain and the way you enable the collaboration between you and your customers, and of course your technology between you and your people, and you and your customers. And I mean, this is going to be really interesting, right? And then of course we see AI at this moment doing what it always does. Take the heavy lifting away, take one boring, mind-numbing task, make it faster, cheaper, better, and then figure out what we're going to do with those humans, with their knowledge, how we can use that better in the process to bring that both agility and resilience. I think that's a little bit my opening for today.
Mark, give me a minute. We've asked people where they're joining from, so we've got a few people. I've got Kiran Nanduri. Hi, Kiran. How are you? Good morning. I've got Dinesh Krishnan on YouTube. Hi, Dinesh. How are you? I've got Dushyant Kumar Tyagi. Hi, Dushyant. How are you? Hope you're doing well too. I've got Satyabrat Acharya. Good afternoon. Hi, Satyabrat. Dushyant is joining us from Hyderabad, and he was on the show a few moons ago. Satyabrat joining from NC in USA, and Harbhajan Singh is joining from Sydney. He worked for SAP, and I bumped into him in the lobby the other day. So, hi, Harbhajan, welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying this. So, guys, thank you for your opening comments and opening remark about where are you joining us from. So, guys, if you've got a question, put that in the comment section, and I'll take that question for sure. And please share this video with more and more people, so more and more people can get and learn from our guest today. So, Mark, how do you see AI impacting the manufacturing industry? Let's focus on manufacturing industry as a goal.
Okay, good. Let's start about what it's doing now, right?
Okay.
So if you are BMW and you manufacture your own engines, your biggest bottleneck is actually that famous lemon, that car that you and I get, and we are happy and it smells nice, and we leave the dealership, and every month we come back because it does something weird. And it mostly doesn't do that weird when it's at the dealer, but when you drive away, it does something weird. And a lot of those things actually go back to one simple thing: micro fractures, micro cracks in the engine block that have deal with pressure or that, and then mostly you can only test that really on a high performance 100 kilometers or more on the highway. So what AI does, it takes let me ask you a question. When you mold an engine block, so you have melted steel, it comes pouring into the mold, butts comes out, then it opens. How long do you think it takes from the first moment the first drip of steel goes in the mold, and that mold opens up and that block goes on the belt? Just minutes, seconds, give me a feeling.
Maybe days.
No. That was the old days. There are phenomenal YouTube clips that you can see actually about molding engine blocks being made. Less than 17 seconds. For the liquid to be poured. Around 72, 73 seconds when the mold opens up and that block goes on a belt and continues in the process. The point is, when it comes out, if you in the first 2 minutes put an incredible amount of laser scanning points on it to measure the temperature and the decay that is happening, you can by 95, 96% reliability predict if this cooling process is going to go well or it's going to lead to a microfracture, which means at that moment you can directly say, bang, this engine goes back to scrap, gets remelted and gets reused, instead of continuing the whole process, ending up in a car and giving you an incredible negative consumer experience. So what AI does is literally evaluate the component images in the production, not just in the engine block there. It's a really good example. Second is when you go to Caterpillar. Caterpillar's marine division, right? It saves around 400K a ship, just because they used machine learning to analyze how the hull should be cleaned for maximum efficiency. You know, when I don't know, I used to be my time at the Dutch military forces was in the Marines as a diver. And beside all the good, the bad, and the ugly, the worst was when one of the people in my platoon had misbehaved, because that means we all got extra duties. And one of them was like, clean the hulls of the frigate that you're serving on, which is really not fun, because, you know, there's like all kind of shelves under it, etc. Now imagine when a ship is much bigger, right? Especially with a marine vessel. Where do you start? What is at the moment the most efficient part? If I cannot clean the whole hull, what is the part we now need to do to actually make sure that the next step is there? And it sounds as one of the mundane, boring things to evaluate, and a lot of data points. But if you actually do that, the moment the ship comes in the harbor, you make the evaluation when it comes in the dry dock, and it is a few hours later out, and you have just taken that spot. You have saved 400K a day. That's serious money, right? Okay. The last that I'm going to get, basically, it's operations, right? And this is not so much the tech or the IoT, but it's all those mundane processes. Like we talked last times about consolidation of invoices and reconciliation. It is now literally doing the paperwork, compare and comply documents, compare the components, compare documents in the stream. Like, and the last, which is always my favorite, we did this with, you and I talk about, this is one of our favorite examples, right, in SAP, is Vale in Brazil, when Jorge, the first gentleman we start with, one of the field engineers, literally comes there and has a GoPro on his helmet, and literally, well, he looks at all the parts. The GoPro identifies all the parts, all the part numbers. So by the time he has figured out what's there, he directly has a procurement order ready, instead of spending 2 hours going to the document for the part number, being on a crappy phone line to a call center in India, who also doesn't really know all the parts, etc. And then he needs to get authorization for the repair. Waste of time. So basically, visual recognition in maintenance, procurement orders for repairs, optimizing production, and especially the whole operations that is around there. The example of Caterpillar in cleaning and efficiency, and of course the B&W in productions and directly taking faulty components out. These are really good things where AI has done things in the last 3 years that we could not do before.
And what about that? My favorite one, which is, because you come from Netherlands and there are lots of windmills there, the drones flying around and testing the windmills and making sure that they're efficiently operating and there's no damage to them.
Right. Well, and then this started with a larger project with Vestas, the Danish manufacturer of windmills. First, right, is actually the first part where AI came is, what's the best place to put a windmill? Because you will be surprised, but if you actually put windmills too close, you actually lose wind, because they create their own negative energy. So you have to go to weather patterns, but you also have to go to the efficiency of maintenance. How easy can I get there? So by doing that, you find the optimum spot for the windmills. And of course, ecology and social pleasure about, I don't want a windmill there, is also part of that equation. Then you come with the second part, right? How do you basically use visual recognition just by having some drones circling around the windmill to say, well, I have 50 windmills here. Which ones has a blade that needs earlier maintenance, right? And that's so phenomenal that you can do that. I mean, can you imagine how we did that years ago? We had to stop the operation of a machine like a windmill. We had to literally climb in. We had to inspect it visually. We had to knock on it. And now you just sit down in your little Zodiac and you around it, and they say, "Oh, that one, we go in." Yes, Shelley, it's nice weather. Let's take that one. It's
okay. One more thing I wanted to ask you before I get anywhere, and that is not to you, not to the audience, guys. There are more than 30 people watching, guys. If you've got a question, put that in the comment section, and I'll take that question in the audience Q&A section, which will be at the end. And so please put your questions in the comment section. Marc, startups. We're here talking about startups, right? Tell us, what are startups doing in this space? Because manufacturing is basically a lot of investment, right? So if anyone is putting up a manufacturing factory or a setup, they need a lot of investment. So startups, how are they quickly getting in and jumping in and making things happen?
Well, so mostly I always say, any startup, right? What's your value prop? What's your one single line value prop? What is the one thing you do that, all right? And around 29% of the startups in manufacturing actually say, well, my value prop is very simple: maintaining machinery and maintaining your production assets, right? Helping basically to get that flexibility. That's a really important part. That could be software-wise, robotic process engineering or robotic process automation, right? Right. So depending if it's before or in the production or in the admin. But it's also just basically failure detection in the production. Now, the second is actually much more specialized, and this is harder, but high risk, high reward, and that is basically in getting design algorithms, right? This is more and more important when you go to a faster curve. Like normally it's like, every 4 years, Mercedes, BMW, etc., come in another car, and there comes Elon Musk, say, oh, this is my car. It's going to come in the market in a few months. Mostly it takes longer, but he already announced it. He already stands there with his cyber truck and announce it and banging it through it and all the kind of things. And there's nothing you can do about it. You're like, we're still the drawing board. How are we going to beat this, right? So getting machine learning techniques in your dealing with your design constraints and optimized product design. But it also means you cannot do that alone. You need to think as a startup already, how I'm going to fit in the other, how I'm going to not partner, but interact in the other larger software components or technology components, think Autodesk and those kind of things in the industry. So this is a really, do I have a unique proposition? How do I not commoditize myself and working with another player, but I need to work with the other player there as well. Video and video recognition, I think 1.5 years ago, you were really nouveauté if you did that. Today, there's a lot of competition for analyzing images real time. So again, what is your value prop? What is your really value that you're doing it? Now, what we now see, COVID really has, I always ask the question, like, which the C-suite has driven most digital transformation in 2020? And the answer is COVID-19, not the CFO, not the CEO, but COVID-19. And COVID-19 has shown us where we are inflexible in our supply chain, where we have built too much efficiency in it. So improving your demand forecast accuracy, building in resilience in your supply chain and flexibility, right? Especially in CPG, that has been really one of the highest priorities in the last 6-7 months. And we have seen like an explosion of startups in that area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is the some of the startups which have been working in this space, and one such startup that is working in AI and supply chain is manufacturing and supply chain using AI and manufacturing supply chain is Yottaasys. And so Yottaasys is an AI product startup focused in the manufacturing and supply chain management system. Team Yottaasys is a small geek team whose members are highly ranked Kagglers. So they've got a group of Kagglers together, and they've started this company, veteran data scientists and hardcore programmers. Yottaasys is into its 3rd year of action, and during this period being facilitated as the AI startup by the Karnataka, which is part of India. So one state of India is Karnataka, by the Karnataka IT minister and NASSCOM leadership. Yottaasys is also a NASSCOM Emerge 50 awards winner, and winner of dozen plus hackathons. So they've done quite a bit in manufacturing and supply chain utilizing AI. Today we have with us Arun Pandey. Arun is a serial tech entrepreneur and currently the chief everything of Yottaasys. Arun has worked with data all this life, including some incredibly innovative companies, and for the past 7 years has been working with artificial intelligence as a tech co-founder. His passion on AI is based on deep tech, where he's also the owner and co-owner of a few patents. Other than work, he's an author, adventure sport enthusiast, uh, tennis player, badminton player, swimmer, and currently also training for Eco Challenge 2020 at Patagonia. I don't know how much time he has in his 25 hours a day where he's doing all of this stuff. So let me bring.
When he's connected all the time, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I think so. Let's bring him in. Hi, Arun. Hi, welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Startup Series. How are you doing?
Hey Shailendra, very good morning. Hey Mark, very good morning. And a big hello and good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody around who is joining this session. It's always a great pleasure talking to you, Shailendra and Mark. I mean, you always is like such a great pleasure connecting with you anytime. So
So
fantastic.
first of all, tell us a couple of things. First question to you is, how much time do you have in a day that you do all of that stuff?
See, that was one of the side objectives of doing Yottaasys or like becoming an entrepreneur is because I wanted to choose my work hours. I mean, I can work for a very long hours and all that time, but I wanted to choose my hours and I wanted to choose the things which I want to do. So that's how I mean, and as Mark just pointed out, I mean, because I'm connected, so sometimes I'm taking a calls in between my tennis games. Sometimes I'm taking my conferences, some things which can be done virtually during my walks and all those things. So it works out. I mean, that's one luxury which we have. We don't get paid a lot, but we have time. So that's one luxury which we have in a startup.
Okay, now the second question is, what is Yottaasys? The word Yottaasys. It's intriguing. So explain that to the audience, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there is a small story behind it. Uh, so we are just a bunch of tech geeks uh, who always like wanted to do crazy things. And somebody challenged us that, see, guys, there is no product startup from India. That was the seed when which like pushed us towards entrepreneurship. So we had this great leader who asked us that, hey guys, all you guys are like you guys are a bunch of coolies. Okay, all we have is like big services set up in India. We don't have a product startup. So that question kept coming back, and so that's like how we started thinking about entrepreneurship. Then while moving into entrepreneurship, we wanted some name which should be a higher quantity than Google. So Google actually is a Greek word which is
Mhm.
100 zeros. So we thought that, okay, I mean, when we are dreaming, dream big. So so we'll find a word which is more than 100 zeros. Coincidentally, we couldn't find it. There is no word defined which is actually more than 100 zeros. So we
Mhm.
settled down for a little less, and we
Mhm.
found yottabytes.
Uh-huh.
So yottabytes is the largest number on the bit scale. So we picked it up. That's our prefix in the name, and we cannot straightforwardly use it. So we misspelled it, just like the way Google did it. So we added an additional A, and that's what Yotta and Yotta says is all about. And
Okay,
yeah, go ahead,
brilliant.
please.
One question. So, starting up the organization, what's the journey like been? Tell us about how you started, and what were you doing when you got an idea to start Yottaasys, and how it all panned out.
Wow. So doing a startup is really much tougher uh, to execute. And I mean, when you plan it out, you just think that, oh, I have everything sorted out, and then things go haywire. All right.
Hmm.
And I mean, we are the lucky ones that we have just faced COVID during our third year.
Uh-huh.
So so you are a startup, bootstrap, just with a little bit of funds. you are ramping up on customers and all that, and then you are hit by COVID. So that's it is one journey which is very, very tough, and one element which is there whenever we plan for a startup is the element of surprise.
Yep.
You will face situations which you have never thought about.
Hmm.
So be prepared for that. Now our journey is like the things which got executed as per plan. There are many things which didn't got executed as per plan, right? We had two investors. They had signed the checks. One of them went bankrupt. The other one absconded. So that was like a blow to us that, oh my God, what are we going to do? And all of that. But then there were certain things which also went planned. So we had thought about that we have an idea, and the only thing which we know is AI. So we
Yep.
wanted to create a product in that space. Now, how do I get the specs for the product, right? So what we did is like we started talking to a lot of customers and started doing project-based implementations. And
Hmm.
whatever piece of code we had in the product, we used
Hmm.
to use it, and a lot of times we used to give it for free, just to get some consulting revenue, services revenue. In my
Hmm.
previous startup, so we started as a consulting company in the previous avatar. That was Yottaasys Consulting Private Limited, and for
Hmm.
4 years, we were evolving the product, doing the product market fit, gathering the requirement, and going to n number of customers and asking them that we have developed this, will you buy it?
Hmm.
So some customers will say that, yeah, I will be interested in buying it and all. Then we will go to the next stage that, okay, if you're ready to buy it, can you buy it now? Can you
Hmm.
give me a small purchase order for like 10,000 or $20,000 and do that? Then like 90% of them will go away, 10% will remain. Now, out of those buyers, customers will again ask that, okay, you are giving us a purchase order now. When will we get the payment? So all those kind of things we did in our consulting company. And we did some couple of great things because of that. That company came into the eyes of some big major company, and that got acquired. But during this time, we had matured up as entrepreneurs. We were all tech with no entrepreneurial experience firsthand. But what we had done is like in the previous corporate setups also, like we have been part of great companies, great teams like Oracle, product development team, and I was quite successful at Oracle, lucky at Oracle. I got
Hmm.
most valuable player award 3 times in a row at Oracle. So
Hmm.
we've done that. The tech was in our DNA. We could have done great products and great things on this side of geography, but then all the entrepreneurial lessons, and then the startup lessons, and then the sales and the marketing lessons that happened during our consulting days, Yottaasys consulting days. After we sold it, we were ready to really create a product from this geography. And
Hmm.
2018 we started. 15th March 2018 when Yottaasys was incorporated, and we are doing some really great things. And when we were picking up the sector, that also was a little coincidental because a lot of our previous customers they came from the manufacturing segment,
Yep.
so that became natural to us. And then what we have seen is like there are a lot of these. So financials is a sector which is using most of the advanced technologies. Then comes e-com. Then retail also is quite good and all. Manufacturing is a very trailing sector. So in terms of tech acceptance, manufacturing had, especially in the software tech acceptance and new technologies, manufacturing was trailing a lot. So there was a lot of space. We had a lot of first movers advantage. We picked it up, and then we are here. So that's like our small journey from since 2015 till now.
Well, I must say one thing, that when there is a place or a sector where no one has done anything, there is a lot of opportunity, and you can actually pick up, uh, start if you're successful in the first project, the sky is the limit. So tell us about what kind of opportunities and challenges that you see being an AI company itself, an AI startup. Is it different to any other startup, or is it being an AI startup? Because if you go to customers, they would say, "What is AI? What do you do?" Isn't it difficult to explain to them what it is
Yeah.
all about?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are a couple of these things. So the first thing you're very right about it is basically for any new thing, there has to be customer education.
Yep, yep.
And AI is one thing which needs this big time.
Mhm,
Customer education, like you are making some serious efforts on this, right? Your other sessions where you're simply starting with defining what is AI.
mhm,
Whenever we mention AI, somebody imagines like either a robot is doing something or a drone is flying and taking pictures. But then there
mhm,
are many facets to AI. And
mhm,
when business customers are asking that, okay, what is AI? Somebody has to simply explain that too. So that's happening with us also. I mean, when we go to a greenfield customer who has never seen AI or data sciences or ML, there has to be certain amount of customer education which we also have to do. So we start with like these open sessions with our customer executives. We also go to their domain SMEs and tell them that okay, these are the kind of problems which can actually like this be solved using AI. They can reduce a lot of workload from you. And then I mean they're generally scared with new technologies, and then so we try to take off that fear factor from them. We try to consult them, we try to establish that trust. And so that's one thing. I mean, customer education is definitely a big thing. The second big element to this is uh, the data availability and sanity.
mhm, mhm.
So data is the new oil. I mean, that's a good proverb to listen. But
Mhm.
then, how good is this oil?
Yep.
Uh, I will just read one statistics. So there is around 2.5 quintillion bytes of data created every single day, and for every single person, there is 1.7 megabytes of data which is getting created per second on the planet Earth. We are getting a lot of data out of this. But now, out of this data, so before Google, we did not have the ability to search. After Google, we have the ability to search. But if the search returns me 1,000 items, then again it becomes the old story. Too much of anything is bad. So that's like my wife's cupboard and my cupboard. So whenever I look at my wife's cupboard, there is an element of every variety, size, class, style, and color. And my wardrobe actually has only limited items, which makes my survival good, right? But then
Mhm,
when she's trying to arrange her wardrobe, it's like a very complex exercise for her. She can
mhm,
never find anything, and then when she's trying to organize, so every customer is actually going through this journey. So they are moving from being a wife's cupboard to being my cupboard. So
mhm,
all data elements are present, and then I mean, when they start looking for some meaningful sense out of it, they cannot find it out. Then
mhm,
they go deeper into that. Again, that does not happen. So they're like they lose their track in the data itself. Sometimes the data is not there. Sometimes it's there. It's nonsense. Yeah, Mark, please.
Yeah, no. So this is exactly the issue, right? I mean, we've looked at these charts over the last years. You know, McKinsey and Gartner, they always come like, well, these are the industry that are the highest in digital adoption, finance, telco, technologies. Then we go a little bit lower, basically, in that part. And then somewhere at the bottom are manufacturing, construction, agriculture, right? In like, you know, we built this concrete plant 20 years. It's really going well, and just don't touch it. You know, it's just great concrete. Don't touch it, please. Let's keep the software that runs it from 2003. Let's not put any of that AI stuff in it. And the first that I have is, it's not just the data, but it's the compartmentalization of data, right? In those construction processes or in those manufacturing processes, we literally have within one plant or within one facility, you can literally have silos of processes where human beings will
Yeah.
type over sensor data from one system to the other. I kid you not. I mean, I made the joke about, like, oh, let's have a mesh network, but most facilities don't even have a Wi-Fi because it's too complex to have a Wi-Fi there, right?
mhm,
Then mesh networking is one of the few solutions you can do that. But then people lack the business case. So when we do that, what are we going to connect except for the general manager walking around and check his emails when he's here in the plant? And
mhm,
it gets even worse when you have some more subtle, like CP, like food production, etc., where everything is indeed about, because this can have an impact in you and me when we consume the product. Everything about the health and safety is great. Everything about the risk is great. But the efficiency and the operating part outside there is not the most advanced there. And part of the reason is that those data sets come from different siloed systems and they just don't even connect. Right? They come from different standards. I mean, the best example that I have is like, well, we get this sensor data in Celsius and all our systems are in Fahrenheit. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, you don't even need AI for that. This is simple mathematical, right? It comes in like this, calculated like that, right? I mean, a 6-year-old knows that. And I was like, it's incredible. And what I still see, and I'm wondering what Arun, going back to you, but I still see in these processes, most data that they look at is actually the data that lowers some risk, lowers some cost, right? Nobody's directly going like, how can we do data for the bigger picture? And for me, COVID and therefore the necessity to change the way we produce, different batch sizes, different supply chain approaches, different shipping of things, different customizations per market and those kind of things, has forced us to say, what is the bigger picture to do? And I'm going to bring this back to startups since we talk about it. So Arun, I'd like to hear from you, because what I see with successful startups, and I'm going to quote somebody I recently talked to who used a metaphor from the movie industry. He says, it's like if you want to produce a movie, you need 3 things. You need people, you need money, and you need big ideas. And mostly you have 2 out of 3. So when you go, Arun, to a manufacturer, whether it is food or product or whatever, you come in with a great idea, but they're going to say, well, how are you back? What are your finance? Will you exist tomorrow? What are your people, etc. Right? And these are always the 3 things. How do you deal with that, both to your clients as in going on? Because that's the balancing act, right, in a startup.
Absolutely, and especially in the manufacturing segment, this is more. So if there is a financial customer or an e-commerce customer, most of the time you will see that the funds are allocated. The customer is extremely educated, up with Gartner ratings, Gartner charts, and everything. They know almost everything, and that's their competitive advantage. Financials, I mean, it's too far ahead. Manufacturer will be like very laid back, and most of the time, AI will be like they will most of the time they will just ask, okay, it will create a chart for us, right? So then we'll be like, okay, that customer education has to be. So customer education is one critical thing which we say, what is AI, what it can do for you. So we have derived our own ways. We have developed languages which are very simple in conversation, and say that we talk to them their business language. It's like, sir, it can reduce your operational cost for a basic oxidation furnace by 90%. Now, you make that statement that I am going to reduce your daily operational cost per cycle for a basic oxidation furnace by 90%. Immediately the ears go up. And then AI becomes very meaningful to them. Then the next journey starts. We start taking into the data, and most of the time we find that either the data is not there, so either there is no data at all. Otherwise, it's disintegrated in silos, and a lot of times it's nonsense data. I mean, there are some columns which have values, the same columns don't have values somewhere else. There are null values. The same product has been mentioned by multiple names across, and then multiple such things. So that barrier comes in. So that's where one of our product also helps us out. So just keeping this thing in mind, we had actually created a module called data. So I mean, just quickly talking about the product. So the name of the product is Nirman, and Nirman is actually a Sanskrit word which means to manufacture, to create.
To create.
Right.
To create.
But let's bring this back, right? I mean, the moment you have that client in, you know already, let's just call a spade a spade, you know you're not going to get perfect data. You know it might be massive amounts of data, but within a massive amount of data, there will be massive amount of quality issues, right?
Absolutely.
So the core question is always like, how do you spot, is there enough data for us to start an AI training, especially when you look to predictive and to maintenance and those kind of things, right? So how do you tackle that when you guys come in?
Right. So again, like most of the time, things start for us with a pilot. Our brand is still evolving, so we don't. We, in the early now we are also now we are getting there. But in the early stages, like 2018 and early 2019, there was not never a straight PO which would offer to us. Will be given to us. Most of the time, things will start it with a POC, and during this POC stage itself, we have certain plugins. For example, another of module of us is Super Hacker. So Super Hacker basically is a product substitute of a data scientist. All of us are Keglers, and generally we do a lot of these tricks, like we stack algorithms on top of each other, then we do very advanced feature engineering, and many such things. Also, like our daily learning appetite has always been more. So like 3 4 months back it was XGBoost, Light GBM, and Cat Boost. Now we have moved to the next tier, which is still in GitHub. The code is still evolving. We are also contributing to that. So our this delta of learning is very fast. So we always have been ingesting that, and so has the product. So everything which we knew, we have just ingested that into Super Hacker, and that imbibes all of this. So we just take it along, and day one, whatever data we have, we use one of our modules to integrate that. And data is what it will do is like out of many nonsensical things also. For example, I want to find out how many places my safety stock is present. I have like 4 DBs, 4 databases. Inside each database, I have multiple schemas, and inside each schema, I have thousands of these tables. Now, I cannot manually go and look for safety stock across, and my safety stock column also does not have the same label or nomenclature. But based on its value, is there a product which can derive that it's the same column which is present across? Or like if there is a product name, so it's a 1 TB hard disk. The name for that is in general the same. There might be a comma, misspelling, all of that, but in general it's 1 TB HDD, and this can be across 35 such tables, across databases, across schemas. Then over there, data comes in, and data can spot this out. That guys, this is the same thing across the board. And now what you have is this value, the average is this, the mean, median, mode, the max value is here. Over here we have the deviation. So we get all those things like within first week of the cycle. Once we have that, we just take a guesstimate on the data, pump all of that into Super Hacker. And Super Hacker, like I mean, within a few clicks, I can define the target and it comes to prediction. So my pilot went very fast. Yeah.
So no. So this is what I was going to. So you do at the moment you're very fast in the pilot, and then how do you make sure this stabilizes but sustains within the company? Because doing a successful pilot is one, right? You have great people who do heavy lifting. This is, of course, the question that people have, like, how do I scale? How do I scale this up? Like, successful pilot, but then, before you know, your whole company can be sucked into one client, right, in doing the project of the mother of all projects, and you have no capacity to do another pilot. So how do you build efficiency in your scaling post-pilot, your approach?
Absolutely. That's a brilliant question, Mark. So brilliant thought also. So there are 3 elements for scalability or adaptation. I would call it generally adaptation. Once I've done the pilot, even I have productionized the implementation and all of it. How do we make it sure that it gets used, and also at the same time it's scaling up as the data grows, as the expectations grow. So all of that. So there are 3 elements to that. One, the first element, which is the easiest to handle, is tech. So the tech element gets handled very easily. I have a great team, great pillars supporting it, and all that kind of stuff. The product has been created in such a way that it can auto scale to several generations of data. The toughest element is the human element. So getting this communicated, adapted, adjusted, and also people getting very comfortable with a new thing coming in. They have been doing things in Excel. Now suddenly you go and say that I have a prediction module which can auto predict. For example, for one of the largest supply chains for Dell, we have been doing they have this 52 week, so they have this 52 weeks planning cycle, and for my 52nd week ahead, I start the FCST quantity is predicted right now. Now the way it happens is like for every RDC, it is done at an operator level by a person. This guy is an extremely great guy, domain expert, and brilliant chap, who actually is like a kind of human AI in himself. Now, once we have
Those
created
are the
this,
scary ones.
so once we have created this implemented this, the accuracies were very high. How do we get this person adapted to this? That always is one of the key things. And I mean, we have just created some very simple techniques around them. We try to gain their trust, and most, I mean, we largely try to stay very honest on our deliveries and everything. So when, I mean, we day one we say that, sir, this will not be possible, this is not possible. Don't make this expectation that it can just go and do some out of the way things. It can go till these limits and deliver on this. So trust, honesty, and then also what we do is like we invest a lot of time in customer education and training. So once these things have been implemented on gone live, we really make it sure that the end user has complete control on the implementation, on the product's life cycle, and simple things he absolutely should be able to do. I mean, we should not worry at all about the support and maintenance fee and all of that.
Right.
That can come secondary from other sources. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. So let's go to Yottaasys for a second, right? To scale like you do, you need to also invest internally in building some assets that you templates, replicable components of models, base libraries for your AI components that you work on, have a replicable approach, a replicable method when you get new people on board. So who's taking care of that? Because because today's world is consultant plus asset plus tools, right? So those assets are Yottaasys brain power, your differentiation. So who's taking care of that in your company to say, this is our method, this is our approach, these are the libraries, these are assets? Because I'm saying that because mostly the children of the cobbler walk barefoot on the street, and there's many other examples as well, by the way. But this is the hardest. How do you apply this on yourself as a startup to give so you can replicate this to your clients? How do you guys do that?
Absolutely. So I mean, one of the key ideas that evolved. I mean, we were not able to do it in day one. So day one, we just our hiring was also like not up to the mark. We were hiring by any methods possible and all, but eventually we learned it out. So we learned the art of hiring. I mean, no interview. There are no interviews which happen at Yottaasys now. There are no verbal talks which happen. Basically, there are 3 levels, and all those 3 levels are work levels. So there is a live assignment which is masked and provided virtually. No need to travel also, virtually to the candidate. And we openly tell them also that if you are able to do this yourself, perfect. I mean, you are our guy. If you are able to get somebody who can do this for you, then also you are smart, will hire you, because that way you can code in the future also. Some so if you are able to copy paste some portion of this from somewhere and then solve the problem, that also is fine, because you can in the future also you will be able to execute these things. And but I mean, things like that. All 3 levels are work levels, and then there is a simple interview, which is which is a HR come CXO come everything, and appointment, and then so we learned this thing, and then now we have imbibed this into a process. Then
So,
yeah.
so how do you avoid that somebody says tomorrow, like, well, can't have such a cool name like Yottaasys, but I'm gonna call myself Para Consulting or whatever, right? I'm gonna just be cheaper a little bit than the guys from Yottaasys, and I'm just gonna tell the same story. How do you make sure you don't get commoditized in the market?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So this is there is nothing very complicated about this. There is nothing which can hold a patent and all. So this can be replicated, right? And
Right.
I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
No, right. So it can be replicated. So there are two things, right? What are you doing? I mean, remember, I sometimes have tough questions as well. So what are you doing to make sure that there's some really bright people listening today? Thank you so much for joining, by the way. And then they say, I can do that too. Guys, let's go to one of Yottaasys' clients. We can do that too for that 20%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we encourage that thought, and what we do with them is we become an investor for them. So we tell them that you go definitely
competition.
yeah, you definitely go out, create your startup. If you need money, here is the money, and we would like to angel invest in you, and then take the side.
Okay.
So
Before you move on, can I ask one question to the audience, guys? Guys, I know this is very interesting and going on very well. If you've got a question, please put that in the comment section for Arun and Mark, and I will definitely take that in a few minutes. So please if you have a question, put that in the comment section. It is coming. Also, please don't forget to like and share this episode so more and more people can watch this and learn from what Arun has to offer. A very interesting idea was that if you can't, if you create competition, then buy them. So invest in them, which is absolutely great. Coming back to the question from Mark, Arun, here you go.
oh, any question?
Mark, you were asking a question. I just jumped in.
No, I'm really interested in Arun's questions for us. Actually, that I was literally like, oh, word, because so Arun, can we invite you? I mean, we've been basically grilling you for the last 30 minutes. I'm sure you have to like, okay, let's grill these guys back, right? Anything?
Absolutely. I mean,
Do that. Can I grill him for a minute before he grills us? So Arun, two things. One is
sorry, Arun. I tried.
You tried. Yeah, okay. Arun, when you mentioned that you go to a manufacturer and say, "Oh, this is going to reduce your cost by 90%," have you ever experienced that if it reduces the cost by 75% after the project, the owner is still, or the manufacturer is still very upset?
yeah,
Because
I mean,
you promised
yes,
90%, 75%, you know?
absolutely. This happened with one of the largest steel manufacturers. So I'll just give you a background on that use case. So and this is that basic oxidation furnace problem solving, and basically the problem was basic oxidation is a very complex chemical and physical process. You have this lime, ore, uh, and coke and sludge all mixed in, and then you heat it up through oxy flames and all, and then you go through these steps where it is converted into steel, liquid steel, and then finally it goes into various avatars of steel. Now over here the requirement was like we have these three matrices, which was called the aim temperature, aim carbon, and aim phosphorus content. Okay, so for every batch there was an aim set, that this is the temperature which should be reached, this is the carbon content which should be reached, this is the end phosphorus content which should be reached. Okay, and then there were the actuals. So actually certain other temperature was reached, actually certain other carbon state was reached, actually certain other phosphorus state was reached. Their SLA or their KPI was that for 90% of the 98% of the predictions, my prediction of steel temperature and actual temperature, my difference of steel temperature and aim temperature the prediction differences should be less than equal to 15 for 98% of the cases. And for carbon, again 95%, phosphorus again 95%. This is one of the largest steel manufacturers of the world. And before that, before us, there were at least like 2 dozen other big and small startups and corporates. Everybody has tried that. They couldn't solve it. Nowhere they were able to reach those KPIs. What happened with us is like for 2 of the matrices, we were absolutely on the mark. For one of the matrices, which was on the temperature side, we were only able to reach 90%, and we had tried the best. So there we got the idea that nothing is possible beyond this. We What they were getting was 48%, and what we delivered to them was 90%. But their faces were down at that time, and in each batch we were saving each batch daily. There were like 3 or 4 batches, and each batch we were saving them $2 million.
And they were not happy yet.
They were not happy. Faces were down. Hey guys, you couldn't do the remaining 8%.
Okay. Any question that you have for us? Now this is the time, Mark. You got to grill us.
Absolutely. So first question for Mark. Mark, what do you think, especially on the tech side, because you're so much into it, and you're a role model for a lot of us. Where do you see these new breed of algorithms evolving towards? Right, and I'm just giving the context to this. Why I'm asking that is because initially we thought that deep learning will solve a lot of things, right? And everybody was doing deep learning into everything. Then just recently, things have changed where we are using a hybrid model. We are mixing up deep learning, and then we are mixing up deep learning with supervised learning, because the amount of compute power which was needed and the improvements were not enough. So you definitely have much larger exposure, ecosystem access than us. So where do you see this next thing or next evolution happening? Things which are happening inside OpenAI or inside the other Chinese startup, which is big, SenseTime, OpenAI. So where that larger trend is toward on the dev side of things?
So that's a really good question. Let me rephrase the biggest issue, right? When we went from rule-based AI, we went to supervised AI. The problem with supervised AI is, even if you had all the training data, you need the best people in your company or your group to continuously correct the model, say, yeah, that's great, that's not great, that's great, it's not great. And I always compare that with, you want to start a smoothie shop, and you need to train the model to recognize bananas that are ripe enough. And there's plenty of libraries that says visual recognition, this is a banana, but there were no libraries 2 years ago that says visual recognition, this is a ripe banana. Just training that simple library meant that you put enormous banana, and then somebody with a digital marker would say to the system, look, this makes it right, look, this makes it right, look, that makes it right. And if you do that hundreds of times, I'm sure that somebody accidentally takes some yellow skin and says, this is ripe, and the system says, no, I don't get it, right? Incredible. So the good thing is this started a new industry. 4 years ago, right, when I wanted supervised learning assistance, and I'd outsource it, Crowdflower, there were a few of these, and now every day I get these mails like, do you need any help in labeling your data? Do you need any good. So supervised learning is also becoming a commodity industry. Good.
Yeah.
Doesn't give you the speed enough. Then we have unsupervised learning, and the most famous example of the Amazon resumes, of course, directly comes like, yeah. So that's why we came to hybrid. We need to have some governance on what is the quality of the data that comes in, how is the model being trained, and what are the outliers of the model that I need to interfere with. Now, what we like to do is still make really big steps with deep learning and supervised learning. And so far, I don't think the coming 2-3 years we can't do better than hybrid. Because actually, to have supervised learning do better, we need to have examples for for deep learning unsupervised. What is a good deep learning? And there's not enough examples for the machine. So you go to the meta level. The machine learning needs to train the machine learning to be less biased and to do better. So we see, and we had this a few episodes ago, companies coming like, how do I take the bias out of the model? How do I train the model itself? Now, one of the coolest thing at the moment, maybe 3 months from now, not anymore, but I like what OpenAI is doing. The OpenAI with their GPT-3, right, which is actually generate your own data sets to train your models, right, is a sort of like, well, if I can check how I create my training data, I feel much more comfortable with my deep learning or my unsupervised learning to lean a little bit more back, because I know that I have a better grasp of what goes in. But we will need more and more life cycle management tooling, right? We started SAP with our data intelligence platform to say, these are a lot of little models, supervised, unsupervised, hybrid done. This is not good enough. I'm going to replace that. And until recently, you needed people to go in and literally hack a Python library or hack a neural network or export everything to JSON and regenerate a model again just to get it from one physical data center to another or from one cloud to another, right? It's absurd. But not so long ago, when there wasn't a cloud, you got a consultant with a stack of CDs in your company. They would install an upgrade of your in-company Office 365 or the old version MS Office within the company, right? The Exchange server. You got human beings with stacks of CDs and putting them in, and they would type the install script. Now, that's unimaginable, but like 5-6 years ago, we still did that. And so we now go to what I call the next level, the productization of AI itself. And I ironically see some really good RPA tools now being used. And actually, GPT-3 is nothing more than an AI taking care of AI tool or an RPA tool there. So to give a short answer to your question, I want to make sure we went a little bit deeper for people that aren't comfortable about or detailed yet what we're talking about, is I think we're stuck to the hybrid development for the coming 2-3 years. We are dependent on getting better training data sets. And the good thing is there's tooling, and I just took GPT-3 because it's also open source and those things. From OpenAI, we need to have better tooling to actually, at the beginning of that pipeline, data pipeline, where we train the model to take the heavy lifting away. And like AI is now taking the heavy lifting away from knowledge workers, the last knowledge workers actually to get AI are tech people themselves, right?
Yeah.
This is no different than workbenches and application generation tooling that came up in the beginning of the 21st century, right? It's the automation of the automation. Yeah. But for now, yeah, sorry, Arun, we're stuck the coming 2-3 years to hybrid approaches.
Absolutely. And I mean, I just want to also mention like a humble effort which we ourselves are trying to do in-house is what we also saw is that deep learning has been very set. What we started as a philosophy is like we were trying to replicate the working of the brain. But then brain has certain dimensions. There is a physical dimension to brain, which is visible, and we all know it and all. But then there are other dimensions of the brain, which is the conscious part, and which is the subconscious part, and things. Some portion of it, we only are able to find it when we go into these meditative states and all. So we were just thinking is like we have so far the masses have taken just one straight approach, which is the physical aspect of the brain, and we are trying to replicate all of that in AI. What we are trying to do is, we have one thing in the Indian meditational system called Raja Yoga, and just giving you some. So that's the philosophical approach which motivated us. It has like a layer of 7 chakras, uh, and each layer to the next layer, you go through a different meditational experience. So we just got inspired with it, and architecturally, can we create those 7 layers of algorithms or 7 layers of predictions happening, uh, and that. But then what we also found out that the current mathematical foundation is not equipped to support that. So over there, some kind of a hybrid between the kind of partial differential, and partial integral which we used in optimization, and some kind of a mix of fractal analytics, fractal mathematics. So that hybrid, we have still not like far ahead into that. It's still evolving, but I think things are looking great in terms of vision. So that's one thing which can the returns can be very very high. If this succeeds, it can change the deep learning paradigm.
So that is definitely that's definitely the point in going forwards. It's still, for a lot of people, this is still complex, right? This is still it's compared to a little bit what business intelligence started. And people did SQL right or Excel reports, and they make them, and then suddenly somebody said there's something as well. It's called analytics, and it means we're gonna use statistical formulas. They were in spreadsheets available. Most people just didn't use it, right? Or they were ever. And my fear was at that moment, Shelley, this is our favorite topic, of course, that the average statistician drowns in a river of average to inch deep, right? And if you do not understand the logic behind it, so as I always say to my kids and to everybody who's a student now, kids, do not underestimate statistics and econometrics, because the point is, if you don't have that in your background, you can make the most beautiful models, but there is something in the science significantly broken, and that's the problem. And so I don't know how this is for you, Arun. I find it in the market. It's really interesting that the schooling system in the last 6-7 years is like, oh, we don't have normal math, we have advanced math. It's only for when you want to be a rocket scientist. Which gives like 90% of kids and parents like, don't have to do that. And then there's applied math, which means you don't have to do math anymore at all. You just need to know what the difference is between add and subtract and type it in a spreadsheet. And like, yeah, so I'm going through a checkout in the supermarket, and I have a 20 in my hand, and the girl says it's 1950, and I give the 20, and I see her go to the cash register to figure out I'm going to get 50 cents back, and I have to is this
No.
enter my models?
Mark, that's still fine. You go to a supermarket and they ask you for 21.50, and you give them 25.50, and they're struggling.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now absolutely. They don't know why I've given them 25.50 when the amount was 21.50. They don't get in their mind that you just return $4.
It's too much. Don't do that. Confuse me. It's
I must say one thing. The moment you started talking statistics, there was a significant drop in the viewership. And
everybody ran away.
And we see the correlation, but we're not sure about the causality yet.
So Shailendra, if you just mention that in the comment that now I'm going to ask questions on statistics, you'll see that it's only 3 of us remaining in this.
No, it is amazing. There's one joke which I always crack on my women in data science, and that's reality. It's not a joke; it's reality. Arun would relate to that. So you know what happened when we were in year 10 or 12, year 10, sorry. That was the first time in NCERT, which is the Indian education system, you are introduced to statistics, right? So there is one chapter on statistics in the book. And in the paper, in the exam, that is an optional question, right? So anyone I've met from India who wants to become a data scientist, and I asked them, what did you do in that year 10 question? They would tell me that they didn't prepare for that chapter because they thought it was an optional question and I will drop it. And all those guys now want to become data scientists. And that's reality.
Yeah, no, it's the point is there's also title inflation, right? It's a lot of people that we're very proud. Like I do reporting, and then the next birthday party, what do you do? Oh, I don't do reporting anymore. I do business intelligence.
Oh.
And then 4 years later, oh, I don't do business intelligence anymore. I'm now responsible for analytics. And then now they come like, oh, I don't do analytics anymore. I'm a data scientist, and I was like, this is really getting scary because every time we invent something in coin the uniqueness of the skill, the term gets commoditized. And the reality is, the essence is still, you look at the past, you take a series of parameters, you have some advanced techniques, and technology is getting better and better in processing that in looking forward. And in the words of Mark Twain, predicting is really hard, especially about the future. And this is, of course, when people who actually have a background understand, like, it's not a linear model, right? First, it's non-linear. It's stochastic versus non-stochastic, but it's also working with multiple scenarios or contingency approaches. And good AI models actually have not one training, but the better pipelines I work with have multiple parallel models, and then they come with a best of 3 or a best of 5. So instead of they say computer says 42, computer says 12, they will say no. We looked at 5 different angles through it with 5 different models, and we have 97% confidence that answer 1. We have 93 answer 2. But you and I, as the experts, knowing this, we make that judgment call, right? It's a little bit when you're sitting in your car, like I have 96% chance there might be a speed camera in this, and you and I as the driver, like, yeah, okay, I know more or less what it is. I'll take my chances on the other part, right? And for medical doctors, it's even more important. They might not take the best outcome in a 1 of 5, best of 5, but they're going to look to how the different models come to their answer. Comes back, Arun, to your build the transparency in the model, right? The manufacturing, this is even more important. Like, I'm not talking about operational decisions like take engine blocker out because you take the lowest risk model. But the moment you do research and you do prediction and you do design, you want to have more than one answer because it's Anyway,
I remember a fantastic use case on this. So we were given. There are these high volume hard disks. Okay, the physical structure, 1 terabyte hard disk and all, Shailendra, Mark, which you are using on a day-to-day basis. So the internal physical structure of these disks is actually, there are layer of CD-like things stacked on top of each other. All right, so you can just imagine this as a CD disk surface, but stacked on top of each other, compressed in that thin thing. That becomes 1 TB for you. Now, this was a Japanese company, Toshiba actually. So what they wanted to know is all these surfaces were getting surface defects in manufacturing. Okay, and what they had is they had a polar image of those defects. So they wanted to first do the model, go to the predictions and all, get the highest prediction, and then they wanted to reverse engineer this and see back, see it back that which parameter is actually giving which kind of defect, has the highest feature importance for which defect category. So their approach was actually finding the parameters and not prediction. So what is my biggest thing, which feature is impacting me the most? So very correct on that, Mark. I mean, in some cases They just want transparency. They just want, I mean, for example, in this BOF case, there was another case which was around predicting the physical and mechanical properties. So steel billets, they have these yield strength and tensile strength, two parameters. But it's so crucial. If there is a wrong yield strength of steel, your building will collapse, your bridges will collapse, everything will go wrong. So it has to be very, very correct. And uh, for most of these steel manufacturers, they don't do this yield testing and tensile testing for every lot which has been created. Even if they do this test, even if they take a sample out of it, the scientific services labs takes few days to get what is the yield strength and tensile strength of this. By that time, this thing has already gone out in the market, got used. Okay. Now, in this, what they wanted to know is like there are things like what is the water flow in the bed, how much temperature at particular point that molten steel arrived in, and then how much air was blowing in, and those kind of things. So from that, we wanted to know that for my most balanced yield strength and tensile strength, when my yield strength and tensile strength is in good ranges, plus minus 10 deviation from normal, which parameter is impacting the most, and what are the optimal ranges for each of these parameters, things like that. So process optimization is coming up as a big team, using data sciences and ML, doing process optimization.
Perfect. Guys, I really need to run to the audience Q&A because I think people are waiting to hear their questions, and I've seen a few out there. So, guys, last chance for you guys. If you've got a question, then please very, very quickly come up with your questions now. And this is your moment, and I'm going to take them now. So the Q&A, audience Q&A section starts now. Wait, by the way, we've had people from all over the world. We've people from US, from India, from Sydney, of course, Hyderabad. So a lot of mix.
North Carolina, that person I really respect, by the way, because
Yeah.
it's like 1 a.m. in the morning and they're still watching us. That's what I call hardcore dedication.
That's
Kudos to you.
contributing to the show. So, guys, please tell us where are you watching it at the moment, which part of the world, and it'll be great to hear that. Anyways, let's run to the question and answers. So we did say there was Sandeep. Hi, Sandeep, watching from Hyderabad. Okay, the first question. Ram Kalikar says, how AI will help in pharmaceutical business? Can this help in R&D? Who wants to take that?
Give this to Arun first.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yeah, definitely. So hey Ram, how are you? Hope you are healthy and safe. That's the most important thing. Uh, how AI is going to change things in pharmaceutical? For example, there is this new stream of AI evolving, which is called chemical informatics. And we also got one scenario where we have to do this. So one of our customers, they wanted to create a new breed of polymers which can actually protect metal. So they wanted to put a polymer coating outside metals so that these metals are very, very safe. You will be able to relate this to pharma also, because the same thing is happening for pharma also. Now what happens is like, using traditional material sciences, the general development cycle. So your periodic table, let's say it's 100 elements by 100. Every combination is a possibility. And in traditional material sciences, what we know is like there are some heuristics, but then everything is a possibility, and those number of possibilities are very, very high. So we create every combination, we create the chemical material out of it, then we take it to the 3D labs and then test it out on various physical and chemical properties, and then we come to a conclusion, a go or no go. So that is why what has happened is like traditionally material sciences has delivered one alloy every 16 years, one new alloy every 16 years. There is a company based out of Valley which is specifically doing this. We are not the specialists just in this domain. We are doing this along with bunch of other things. Uh, But there is a company which is only focusing on this, and what they have been able to do is reduce this 16 years manufacturing cycle using traditional material sciences to 6 months. So they are able to identify using, there are open databases like PubChem, uh, ChemoDB. There are thousands of them where you have all these chemical elements. Uh, what are their physical and chemical properties? For example, for crystal stability, I remember there were two parameters. One was how much was their bandwidth energy, and then what was the lattice energy and cross vector. So how do these molecules orient, and what is the stabilization energy uh, when you do density functional theory analysis. So all of these things are out in public uh, databases. Now, what startups and other big setups like SAP are also doing is they are taking these open DBs and coming up with the top 10 possibilities. So I have my top 12 things which have 95% chances to give me a new alloy. So one stream is going towards that. Same is going to happen in the pharma also. Because just if you look in the COVID situation, right now we have gone very traditional. We have gone through a full vaccine development cycle in the original manner. Because everybody was scared, nobody thought about this new approach. But then somewhere we will evolve where this new molecule discovery or new vaccine discovery, which will be much compressed in time frame.
Well,
Out of all, yeah, please, Mike.
I think that's a really important part, right? It's because we've been talking a lot about production and manufacturing today, right? But the role in developing a new drug, the role in finding patterns and connections and taking different angles, especially in identifying different compounds or drug adherence, or you making sense of clinical data, or doing a better clinical trial matching, right? Those are things that took so much more time, and we actually have seen during COVID, those around the whole vaccine research have been there in parallel, and we've seen that especially in the clinical trial. I mean, can you realize that in March everybody was panicking for a vaccine? We just had the RNA code out. And we now have had in November clinical trial testing in larger data sets around the world. That sounds like 7 months, but I'm like, 2 years ago, this would have taken 3-4 years. Yep. So of course everybody puts their shoulders behind it, but the technology also really has helped us, right? Eliminating compounds, finding other biological interesting compounds and angles, finding different, like maybe I can't go left, or maybe I can't go via neuroreceptors, maybe I should go via RNA, or maybe I should go via, and all those kind of angles. And we see the same now in the planning of supply, right? We have the different players. Some will need -70 C cooling, others will go at normal fridge temperature. We're going to end up with, it's going to be one product, it's going to be multiple cocktails of vaccines, but they will have their constraints in how they can be transported and distributed. And again, we already see in the upgrades, a series of the large manufacturers around vaccines are having done. And this is all public, right? If you just Google manufacturer, pharmaceutical company name SAP, you will see supply chain update. And the biggest supply chain updates that have been done is, how do I optimize distribution? How do I bring this from lab to manufacturing, and from manufacturing to the lowest risk-free distribution? This is not about the most efficient route. This is about losing the least amount of vaccines in the process, right? Because that's why our shortage is. So it's a really good question, but it also shows that it's not AI in this. You have to look at the total value chain and say every step in that value chain has an AI component that changes actually things. Yeah, that was a really good question, Ram. Thank you.
Good stuff. And someone tried to answer that. That was Vijay. Hi, Vijay. Thank you. And he says, yes, improved timeline of drug innovation. I think that's what you guys were alluding to as well.
Yep, agree.
And then Ram turned around and said, Thanks, Vijay. Will that be integrated with project systems? Anyone wants to have a quick go at that?
Well, let's first automate it. Let's first integrate it. No, but seriously, right? This is where RPA comes in. Let's first automate a series of steps before you can put it in project systems. That would be my short answer.
Okay, good stuff. Next is Prapul Palli, our favorite. He's always, every time on the show. Hi, Prapul, how are you? Prapul saying hello, Mark. Hi, Prapul, Mark. And here we go. That's a question for you, Arun. Is from Kalicharan Pichumani, and he says, we need angel investor for a startup company. We have manufacturing domain expertise, who has over 25 years experience in manufacturing industry around Tamil Nadu with multifaceted experience, and wanted to build up his own company after provided benefits for various kinds of SME manufacturing and software companies, including FMCG, engineering, automotive, and software companies. How does he reach out to you, Arun, if you want to have a conversation?
Absolutely. So he can just share the background and details about him. He can share it on my email, which is arun.pandey@yottaasys.com. I think we will also flash that in a bit. And also, you can directly reach me out. We can have a look, and we can find out if the synergies work out in our favor. There are other, and also for angel investor, I would suggest him that he should try multiple parallel approaches, so that one of them works out on his favor. I would like to point him to DST, which is Department of Science and Technology, and Department of Science and Technology, along with
in India.
In India, and this is being directed by the PMO himself, and basically they provide a loan plus equity contribution to startups around 30 lakh rupees,
which is 3 million rupees, by the way.
And for that, the only criteria is you should be a Startup India qualified startup. You should be local, of course, and you have high chances of getting this if you are solving a problem which is more domestic in nature, or if it is international and global, it should be a burning problem, not a commodity thing. For example, if you are doing something related to COVID, then international, global, local, everything is equal. And it really works. You can get a response within a couple of days. You can just go for Department of Science and Technology and search for them. The third thing which you can try in parallel is NASSCOM. So NASSCOM gives you a lot of these freebies, including a lot of cloud credits. If you need machines, they give you a lot of machines. They connect you with a lot of mentors. So apply. I can connect you with a bunch of these guys, but you can just go to NASSCOM site. They're very happy to help you out. So you can get a lot of these freebies from them to scale up your thing, and you can get some grants also. Then the fourth stream which you can try in parallel is there are very gentle and honorable setups like Microsoft, Google, SAP, and all of these have some kind of an accelerator program. You just need to find out those accelerator program, and generally they give you grants anywhere between 50 L to 1 CR, which is like 50 million to million to 1 CR basically. Yeah, 50 million and 1 CR, 50 lakhs and 1 CR, and that can help you if you are moving towards getting your MVP done or getting your first version of the product done. And I also share with you the link of my blog, where I have actually summarized all these channels when even I was looking out for funding 5-6 years back.
Okay, good stuff. So if you can just put that in the private chat, I'll flash it on.
Sure.
In the meantime, good stuff. But that's good to know. The Indian government is giving 3 million rupees to startups. Great news. And you said it's 5 million to 10 million rupees otherwise, with the bracket you were talking about. Okay.
Right.
The next message is from Poonam Sood. She says, hi, she's also regular on this show. Hi, Poonam, how are you? And she says, We have an option to take statistics over chemistry in Bachelor of Science, which is interesting. And she says, I took statistics as hated chemistry and was the only girl in my class. So irritated.
Yeah, guys, I hate to say this to the three of us especially, but the best statisticians in the teams I've got here have all been really female. So I wonder what in our hunter-gatherer wiring as men has gone wrong there.
Interesting. Okay,
so,
next question.
Take it.
Okay, Dinesh Krishnan says, hi Shelly and Mark. How do you see SAP growing and creating value in the AI space? Is there any possibility of engaging with growing startups for niche solutions? Mark, you can have that.
How do I see SAP growing and creating value in the AI space? Short answer, almost 3 years ago, I joined SAP. And it's not because I joined SAP we create value in AI. It's because SAP had a strategy that value in AI should be created. And instead of building this from scratch, some of the best internal brains in SAP were combined with people who had track record in the industry to boost this up. The result is machine learning embedded in SAP Analytics Cloud. This is your own development library built on top of the normal platform, so Watson, TensorFlow, Microsoft machine learning, etc. But also embedded in the APIs that connect to SAP modules. So when I create a startup, how do I connect to a catalog? In retail, because 77% of the world transactions go through SAP. Now, for that, to the second part of your question, sap.io. Let me repeat it again, sap.io. For the first time, sap.io. You should go there because this is actually both our internal fund. And by the way, we don't give money away. You have to really qualify for that. You have to articulate it. You have to wow us. But those that wow us, we have at SAP.io not just a fund, but we do foundries. That means that you're equity free, sit for 3 months or 6 months on premise with us, saves you office space, gives you coaching, and gives you the opportunity to basically say, how will my solution integrate with, for instance, SAP? Whilst we really want you to be your own company, right? We don't want you to be direct. I know you all want to be slurped up directly, but slurped up later is always better than slurped up at the beginning, to say it like that. So sap.io, have a look at it. It's our venture, it's our studio, it's our founders.
Good stuff. Okay. Thank you, Mark, for that. Shabra Brat, the guy from North Carolina, is watching, mate. He's watched the whole episode, so it's great. He says, thanks, Mark. He was up all night. Looks like we were here for 2 hours.
Actually, Satyavrat is has been a co-worker with me, so I know him very well also. He's a very bright chap, has just moved to States a couple of years back. Very, very bright chap towards AI and all. He's passionate about it.
Good stuff. So KCBS India says, we are focusing on data collection through sensors, ensure data integration, and use it using ML and AI to build IIoT and Industry 4.0. Yes, thank you very much for that information. KCBS India, good thing, good place to be. Now, this is my friend Angelo. Angelo is Sydney Sider, and he says, majored in statistics, it drives modeling and code used for AI and cognitive intelligence. Maths drives the world. Well said, Angelo, and I look forward to come back on the show very soon.
Yes, it drives the world. Can I do, this is the book recommendation of the show, Weapons of Math Destruction.
Weapons of Math Destruction. Okay.
Yeah, really, really good. It's actually 4 years old now. Kathy O'Neill wrote it, and it's really good. But it shows you how algorithms are used, and it's actually the good, the bad, and the ugly. So math drives the world. Math drives the world. If you were unsure how much it drives, weapons of math destruction.
Good stuff. Next question. Next question is from Satyavrat himself. He turned around and said, how AI can be used in small-scale agriculture. how to make it affordable for the small to medium scale farmers in the developing and poor countries across the world. Satyabrat, before people take the question to answer, I must say that I had Dushyant, Dushyant Kumar, I don't want to get his name, Dushyant Singh, who is advisor to PMO in India on one of the shows. And um, if you watch that episode, it is actually great and it is very interesting. But if Dushyant, you're watching, and he's regular on the show as well, he watches the show. Dushyant, if you're watching, this question can be taken by you as well. But guys, Mark and Arun, what's your point of view on that?
So I'm going to be really short. Waterwatch Foundation. Waterwatchfoundation.com is a non-profit, and it uses AI to help an individual farmer to improve the productivity and efficiency of their thing. An example, in the Netherlands, you basically do 5,000 ton of production on a potato field on an acre, which is only 2,200 in India, China, Africa, even less. So every morning when you wake up as a farmer, you have to make very simple decisions. Will I harvest? Will I water? And the impact of that 3 months later can make an incredible impact in you and your family, if you can pay your debts, if you can invest again. So what Waterwatch Foundation said is, like, let's take different kind of satellite data, different kind of knowledge, but different kind of models as well, to assist, to put it in an app that's like $1 a year, right? $1 a year. It doesn't sound much, but you know, when you're in Africa and a smartphone is all you have, that's still, but that app shows you the commitment that you actually do two things. One, you use the app to support your decisions, but you also directly give your opinions back to the community, because how do we find the difference between the field at the left side of the mountain and the right side, what to do? So make it affordable. You need to have data consolidators that make the data available through AI. Waterwatch Foundation is really such a great example. Have a look at it. They do phenomenal work, and they do it no nonsense.
Good stuff.
I would also like to add what to Mark is, like, Satyabrat, there are a bunch of things which are happening in the agri-tech space. If you see that as a sector, and if you see the investments coming in, agri-tech in India actually is the most hot commodity right now. I mean, if you just think about in terms of investment, that is going to be a sector which is going to be attract $50 billion in the next 5 years, just in terms of investment. Why? Because clearly there is a pattern. Digitization in India is happening very, very rapidly, fastest in the world. Okay, and with digitization, also, like, our food needs, our own needs are expanding, and also we are becoming the epicenter for a lot of manufacturing and a lot of agri commodity supplies also. Because of digitization, I mean, the farmers have access to global markets, so, and all of that. So agri-tech is actually one of the biggest places where the action is happening. Now, how can anything be done using AI? So I would say that it has to be a mix of AI and digital. Only AI will not sort out optimal cost problems for the Indian farmers, because I mean, these sensors have to be very, very optimal in cost. We know our margins, our farmers' margins, the kind of margins they operate, the kind of costs they can incur for these things. So these things have to be really, really optimal. Maybe the money can be made on volumes, but the margins have to be very less. So when the sensors come down, digital and AI combination, that's going to be a key ingredient for agri-tech. Farmers, see, the 80% of the loss in agri-tech is in the supply chain. Farmers, they don't get the value of their crops because there are middle layers in between. I mean, you have these wholesale markets, then you have your local retailer, and then layers of it. And Namo has actually, our honorable Prime Minister has actually demolished those layers through a new regulation right now, but still in terms of systems, we are not prepared. So those systems are happening right now. For example, in Bangalore, there is a mass movement where the farmers are directly selling to these high, tall buildings and all these residential complexes where more than 400, 500 people live in. So they just come in. First of all, through digital, they are able to find out the facility where their demand is, and then somebody books a slot. Within a day, their entire crop goes for grapes, for oranges, for all such foods. So that's digital. AI is going to impact in terms of like what do you need to sow, when do you need to sow, how can you sow so that your margins are the highest. All those three things at very low cost will be delivered by India, by AI, and for India also for sure. Very good question, Satya.
Okay. He's extended that question and said how logistics can be arranged in areas having medium to low connectivity.
Yeah, so I mean, I will take that question because Mark will have limited exposure about the connectivity things happening in India. Basically, I know you are in states, so you might not be catching up with the latest things which are going on. So, Prime Minister's again, one of the key things he is driving in is the fiber optic connectivity in India in villages. All right. And right now, so far, out of the entire village population which we have, and when you say these areas which are having medium to low connectivity, of course, these are remote areas like villages and small towns. Even small towns are good now. It's only the villages. So out of the entire mass of villages, what we have, 58% have already been provided fiber optic network. So every sarpanch, that is like a local council, Mark. So every council, the head of the council has been supplied with a 150 Mbps direct link, so that he can facilitate any government-related transaction and all. And then because fiber optic has reached out, uh, these high-speed bandwidth and bandwidth and everything is available at dirt cheap prices. So at $1.5, you can have a 20 Mbps connection daily in a very, very remote place. So it is reaching villages. Now, your question will go to the next layer where is like, now how will it go from the village to the farm? Because these villages are somewhere at a local area. These farms are far beyond those villages. They might be like a few miles away from the village and that kind of stuff. So some innovations have happened where there are local broadcasting towers which are being created. So a fiber optic network has come into a village. Now from there, if we have to take it to a farm where some kind of mechanisms can help in. So there are new technologies evolving where without a wire we can spread across Wi-Fi network. So you can think of that as a local satellite based, uh, and that also is becoming very cheaply available commodity. So that is going to take it to the villages. I think in the next 5 years, every corner and village of India will have a very high speed, latest 5G, 6G kind of network connectivity. That's where I mean everybody is investing big time into digital because there is a digital revolution happening in India. The e-commerce growth, the food app retailers growth, things getting sold through guys like Licious or the meat sellers. Every time you go to these apps, they're out of stock. On an average, every cell phone which gets launched in India gets out of stock in the first 3 seconds.
Ah.
Yeah.
First,
So
It's like
first,
PlayStation 5. It's already out of stock before it's launched.
yeah.
well,
I mean, we actually have to literally book, install. There are these plugins for Amazon and Flipkart. We actually have to install these plugins so that we get the product of our choice. Otherwise, within milliseconds, they go out of stock.
Incredible, right? Incredible.
Yeah. So if somebody actually has the right quality at the right pricing, there is no market like India. B2C, there is no market like India. People are hungry. I mean, if you just search a term called Adidas must have shorts. So this is one shorts which I love. I mean, I use it. It's very comfortable. It's in my price range and all that kind of stuff. It has been out of stock from 4.5 months. You try to buy a red MI phone. I mean, though we hate Chinese now. I mean, I'm sorry about saying that such a session, but I mean, almost like because of COVID, everybody is a little in that direction. But still, I mean, there is it's a mandatory thing which everybody has to bear with. The Chinese phones, they go out of stock. Every Red MI phone, 3 seconds, they launch in 3 seconds, they are out of Amazon, Flipkart, all these e-com sites.
Now
So there is a big,
it's like
yeah,
the India Australia series that's happening, and we tried to book the ticket, and before we went, it went live. It was all sold out, so you can't buy the tickets. Simple. Okay, okay, guys. Last question from Rebecca Buckness. We have to have a question from her. She's regular. Is there any digitization for weather data in agriculture? Who wants to take that?
So the weather company started with that, and we see companies like SAP working with that. And by the way, the Waterworks Foundation takes weather, of course, as an important part. The biggest issue with weather is that we found out like 5 years ago we had less weather models, we had less weather data. We actually did pretty well. Two things happened. One, global warming offset all the old parameters, and second is we now have more models, but they're not based always on the same parameters. One is based on velocity, the other is based on location, one is based on Fahrenheit, the other on Celsius. And then we put it all together, and then we look at our phone and it says, it's raining outside. Like, no, it's not. Or worse, it's beautiful weather outside. Like, no, it's pouring. So what you now see is that companies, that's why I like Waterwatch Foundation, for instance, have to do extra AI and extra models again to sift through all the input streams and say, what is the best model on this location for me for the coming 48 hours to make a decision? So it's really interesting. We have created a solution, and that creates its own problem, and then we use the same technology for the solution. Nice question. Thank you.
Good stuff. Okay. Finally, Satyabrat says, thank you, Arun and Mark, for all the clarifications. Good job. And Rebecca says, interesting show. Thank you very much. Those were the questions, guys. Thank you very much for the questions. Audience was quite pretty engaging, it looks like, and we had a few questions today. Thank you all. Okay. Finally, one phrase before you guys go. I always ask this question. One phrase you want people to be left with. What it would be. A phrase, not a paragraph. A phrase. So I'll start with Arun. Arun?
yeah. So perseverance is the thing. If you're doing a startup, perseverance is the thing.
Okay.
So keep perseverance, keep perceiving things. I mean, be like that ant who never gives up. Eventually, you will succeed.
Mm-hmm. Mark?
I'm going to break your rule. I have two statements. One is for Arun. So the first is for the show. You have a startup, you have an idea, you do a pitch. Think about being a movie producer. Big idea, money, and people. How do you get all three? And if you can only do 2 out of 3, how do you get the part for the third? Right? That's the one I need to get. For Arun, being Dutch, Dutch DJs are the most spectacular ones in the world because they don't color in the picture. Martin Garrix, Yottaasys. I mean, come on, needs to be your company song on the website.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time today, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, see you. And a big thank you to Shailendra, to you, Mark.
Sorry, Mark.
I was saying thank you, Arun. This was really fun.
Good stuff.
Same here, Bob. Same here. Really nice time. Thanks to Shailendra and everybody who organized this, and to audience also. Be healthy, be safe, and that's the most important thing, guys.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes.
So guys, that was Mark and Arun from Yottaasys. Hope you enjoyed the show and had some good time learning a few things from the two guys. Thank you very much for watching. I know it was around about 2 hours time, which we always hit the mark. Thank you very much. And if you're watching this on Twitter, please press the follow button. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, press the follow button. You're already following. If you're not, ask others to follow. I've also seen whenever I go live, I lose 5 or 6 followers or maybe 10 followers on LinkedIn. I don't know what that trick is, but something is happening. And if you're watching this on YouTube, press the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be alerted. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please like and share with the other groups as well, where people can learn from it. And that's it. Thank you very much. And I'll see you tomorrow with another show and another episode of another show. So see you tomorrow and bye now.